everyone, this is Moby's Primal, and I am back with another Warhammer Fantasy Battle Report! This is the second game that I played last weekend with my all-night army, so if you watched the last Battle Report, you'd be quite familiar with all the new toys and whatnot in my new army list. This game is being played against my Warhammer Mentor, and I think this is the same army build as what I played in Battle Report 12 or 11 or something like that, if you can remember that far back or go back and check through all my history. So this is a Blood and Glory scenario. Beastmen army has a fortitude of 5, and my Heartless have a score of 8. First army to 3 loses, 2,400 points. Let's get it on. On my opponent's left is a unit of 7 Harpies. In behind 2 Tuskor chariots and some Warhounds. Then towards the center of his, he has another unit of Warhounds and then a big unit of 42 Gore, being led by a level 4 Shaman who's equipped with a 4+ ward save and a scroll. And then the Brass Cleaver, and takes the Lord of the Wild, mostly to summon a Gorgon in the backfield. Also, the Beast Lord is leading that unit. He's got the Crown of Command, Gnarled Hide, Blackened Plate, and the Dawnstone. So he makes my Flaming Attack Nobodies nearly worthless against him and any of the units that he leads. Just like my general, this guy is more utility and tank than Stone Cold Killer. So then in the center of that ruin, he has 6 Minotaurs led by his Gorbel BSB, who's got the Charm Shield and the Obsidian Lodestone. And next to that, he's got more Warhounds, another Tuskor Chariot, 5 Ungor Raiders, and then 36 Bestigor. Yikes. Also, Coca-Cola is right there for refreshment. My left flank has got my Pegasus Knights and a unit of Archers and Trebuchet. Then in the center, Hainer is hiding in behind those woods to, avoid all the shooting attacks that this Beastman army brings to battle. Again, he's got the Virtuous Stoicism, the Genji Helm, and the Dawnstone, and rides a Chocobo. And the rest of my army is all stacked in the right there. 2 units of Knights, 1 is joined by Bardorba, my BSB, and then the 9 Nobodies with the Flaming Banner. Also another Trebuchet, Archer unit, and 2 Fast Cavalry rounds everything out. So Beastman 1, an ambushing Ungor unit, jumps out to threaten my Trebuchet, and these chariots dart around to play chicken with my Pegasus Knights. And I'm kind of okay with this because I think my opponent needs the chariots to get past my armor save, and if they're back here dorking around with my Pegasus Knights, they're not adding combat res to the real fight on the right flank. The only thing is, my Pegasus Knights pretty much need to do the same thing to the Gore herds, and I think 5 Pegasus Knights probably cost way more points than these 2 Tuskor chariots here. On the right, everything basically moves up, but not so much as to give me an easy charge. Plus, there's a lot of character shuffling. The Doom Bull goes into the Gore unit. The Gore Beast Lord goes into the Bestigor unit, and the Mage stays put. Then in Magic, a File Tide kills all but one of the Yeomen. And then the Mage summons up a Gorgon through a very light, damaging miscast. So that sucks, but the last time we played, my opponent had this guy still unpainted, but now I think he looks simply terrific. I love the faded purple horns and the claws. I mean, he's exquisite, albeit very dangerous, and very distracting from my plans. Aside from that, not much else happens, so we move right into Heartless 1. One of my lances scoots right up into the Warhound's face. I'm pulling the same move I did against the High Elf army I did last game. Basically, it jams up all his stuff. I'm really getting a good charge against my Knights, without really putting them in a terrible position based on what those Warhounds can do. Hainer charged the dogs, and I'm just hoping that he can get a good overrun after he kills them and then get into that Gore unit, because I think he can potentially hold that unit up for the entire game until I get Knights over there to crack that unit and break the enemy's threshold. Because if I beat that unit, he loses a standard and his BSB. All he's got is a standard and a general, and that's 3, and that would win me the game. Also, that brave yeoman who was all on his own from getting shot last turn stares down that Gorgon just to keep it from running amok against my Knights and Trebuchets. So right here, my opponent remarks that that yeoman's probably gonna chicken out when he takes that terror check, and the Gorgon's gonna redirect in my Trebuchet anyway. So I countered by brilliantly swooping my Pegasus back in to grant some leadership, and also give a counter charge to the against that Ungor unit, because they're going to most definitely kill that Trebuchet next turn. So that's a double effective use of a 275 point unit, right? They avenge a 90 point Trebuchet by killing 30 points of Ungor. Huzzah! My trebuchet does manage to get a rock off and kill 6 or 7 gore, and then Hayner does indeed make it into the gore unit after wiping out the warhounds. So now I'm feeling pretty okay that I'll hold this unit up, and he's just got to survive long enough to bring in reinforcements, which he's very, very good at doing. And then we move into Beastmen 2. The Gorgon charges that Yeoman. Just look at the size comparison there. Go Yeoman, you totally have got this with your 2 attacks. Also, the Ungor, of course, they charge the trebuchet, and then there's more shuffling in the back with the chariots. One of them does move over to get ready to charge Hayner next turn because he's probably going to be there because he's stubborn. The dogs who are facing my knights, they scoot over, giving way to the Bestigor so they can threaten everything. It's like the mega death clash of the Uber Titans on the right side here, for sure. No magic since the Shaman is got that monster out with Savage Dominion, and there's little shooting to begin with, so it's pretty much on a combat. Hayner kills the Gore champion, and then he holds thanks to his crown because he did lose pretty handily. And then, of course, the Ungor bagged the trebuchet, and the Gorgon killed the Yeoman. That basically is just +1 attack to his frenzy. The only real good news there is with his required frenzy overrun, it put him just out of line of sight of the second trebuchet, so he can't charge that thing in his next turn, and it's on to Heartless 2. My Pegasus Knights seek revenge for that lost trebuchet, and I spring out with my lights and Bardorba into the Gore unit. Also, my other unit of Knights charge the dogs, and what I'm really hoping here is to not kill all the dogs, break them, and pursue them into the Minotaur unit. What is it? No. What was I? You know, what I should have done is swiftly reform them and move them in left. No, okay, now I remember. Because the giant freaking Gorgon is still bounding around back there, and he's got everybody on watch. Then on the right, my nobodies move up, and my yeomen fail a very critical march block check. Those Ungor are march blocking them, and they really needed to pass it so they could interfere with the Bestigor, keep them from doing anything. Crap, whoops. So, magic and shooting are uneventful. We pretty much go into combat. My knights, of course, they blaze the warhounds away. And I elect, instead of overrunning, I elect to reform them into a line. So basically, that Knight Lance is sacrificing themselves to keep the Minotaurs and the Bestigor from getting involved into that Gore combat. Speaking of the Gore combat, it goes horribly. I put every attack I could on the Gorbel BSB, but I didn't roll a single attack higher than a 3 to hit. So I missed him completely. He didn't even need to use his Charm Shield. Then on top of that, the other knights only managed to kill 3 Gore, but then even more on top of that, the Gorbel outright swatted my BSB, killed him straight up, right off his horse. So that didn't go at all like I wanted. The only real good thing that came out of it was Hayner got locked into a challenge with the Shaman, and I put 2 wounds on him. So just maybe, I can kill that Shaman off, and the Gorgon would disappear before he rips everything up in the backfield. And then we go on to Beastmen turn 3, and the Bestigor and Minotaur both charge my Knight line. That's kind of fun to say in that context. Knight line. Also, luckily for me, the Gorgon failed the 10 that it needed to charge the rear of my Knights. That would have most definitely been the end of that unit. But then the Chariot did make it into Hayner's flank. Also here on the left, the Harpies charge the flank of my archers. And that seems minor, but it's another standard that I need to hold on to, as I've already lost my BSB, so down to 7. And I'm probably about to lose another standard in that Knight unit with the Minotaurs and Bestigor, so that makes it 6. After combat, the peasants hold thanks to being steadfast and those Pegasus Knights nearby, granting them good leadership. But then on the right, both Knight units break. So I lost 2 banners, and I'm actually down to 5 now. To note, though, those Minotaurs, by the way, they did exactly 0 wounds after all their attacks and impact hits. So it was really good thing that the Bestigors were there to pick up the slack, because otherwise the Minotaurs weren't cutting it. Luckily, both units were very, very lousy overruns, and they aren't in a terribly good field position to do anything other than chase off my fleeing Knight units right now, who don't have standards anyway, so they're not super important right now to the game. Alright, we go into Heartless 3, and my Pegasus countercharging the Harpies because I've got to save that banner in those archer units. Side note, those Harpies look like they're not painted, but it's actually a very, very striking shade of purple, flying skeletons, awesome conversion. Alright, back to the game. The Nobodies, they get a nice deep charge against the Minotaurs, and I cannot wait to see how this turns out. Over on the left, the Pegasus just barely managed to save the Archer unit. Those guys are just down to the 1 standard bear, so barely holding in there. Also in Magic, Sam got a boosted Hermodic Convergence, so it made everything within 12 of her reroll 1s to hit wound and armor save, and it makes those Nobody's Ultra Thunder Crazy Boss dangerous. In hand-to-hand, they kill every single Minotaur without taking a single hit in return and overrun. Plus, Hayner managed to deal the finishing wound on that Shaman, and the Gorgon disappears in a cloud of smoke. So see the smoke there? I added that for effect before I took the picture, and I am super stoked now that I have just won this game because the Nobodies can just barely see that Gore unit, and they're gonna flank him next turn, seal the deal. But then my opponent reminds me to take my break check because even though I did kill the Shaman, I still lost the combat. It's no big deal, right? Leadership 9, stubborn, easy. Wrong. Throw an 11, fail. Whoops. Well, you know, he's got the virtual stoicism. He gets a reroll, right? Even though the BSB is dead. Can't possibly fail that leadership check 2 times in a wrong. Throw another 11. And so he breaks. So maybe he can get away. You know, he's flying after all. He's got a high roll. He's going to outrun these things. Wrong. Fail. Throw triple 2. Flee 4 inches. And then gets cut down by that chariot. And the game is over. Because I only have 3 standards now. The archers, the 2 archer units, and the Nobai unit. So my fortitude is 3, and I break the threshold. Game over. So it was an absolutely fun game, even though it only went 3 turns. Just like the last time I played this opponent in a Blood and Glory scenario, we played, and he was using his greenskin army. Both of us weren't ever very confident that we were going to win the game. So you know it's a good battle then. Again, this game showcased that the all-night Bretonnia army is strong, but it's not a brain-dead army that any monkey can just play. It takes some cunning and luck to win, even with all that thick armor. And my opponent has always played a spectacularly awesome game, even though all his Gorgon managed to kill was a single peasant yeoman. So anyways, that's the report. Hope to see you next battle.